This is the story of two Twinspot Gobies, plucked from the rich and calm inshore reefs off tropical North Queensland. Gee, I didn't know this was going to be a sad movie. Can we start again? This is Jerry. Jerry's a robust goby with a slightly pushy personality, but a love of sifting sand with his partner. This is Springer. Springer's Jerry's partner, a goby with a slight weight loss condition and a destructive desire to go overflow box surfing. Together, they are a twin spot love story made in a burrow of sand and silt. But before we learn about how they come to call this aquarium home, I think we should revisit the steps taken to build this perfect habitat in a glass box. It started a little over 4 months ago with a shovel full of mangrove mud, a little rock pool sludge, some chunks of tube worm castings, and some precious Great Barrier Reef live rock. A little mess and a lot of patience. And that's why I'm out in the shed. And that brings us to now. About 6 months ago, I set up an aquarium. Actually, I set up that aquarium over there, specifically for a pair of sand sifting gobies. But not just any sand sifting gobies. That aquarium has been set up specifically for twin spot gobies. Mission impossible. Now, about 2 days ago, I got a call from my local aquarium store, which is about 1.5 hours drive away. And they've told me that Cairns Marine, up in Cairns in Australia, up in Queensland, Australia, has specifically collected me a pair of twin spot gobies. They've been sent down to Port Macquarie, and I'm going to do the 1.5 hour drive now and go and pick them up. So you might be wondering, why on earth would I want to keep an impossible fish in one of my aquariums? I guess it's simple. In my mind, at one stage, every single fish, including the humble neon tetra, was impossible to keep, or had never been kept before in captivity, until someone just figured out how to do it. And that's the aim of this aquarium. I want to try and figure out how to do it. Now, the sand sifting gobies, in my mind, are actually usually abused in our reef aquariums. They're usually included in our stocking plan as a utilitarian fish, a utility fish. They're usually included there with the aim to stir the sandbed up, to sift through that sand and remove debris, and keep it at that kind of nice sparkling white that reef aquarists like. However, in the process of doing that, those reef aquariums usually don't have enough microfauna, the amphipods, the copepods, the crustaceans, the worms living in that sandbed, and those sand sifting gobies usually starve. So the aim of this aquarium is not to be a reef aquarium. The aim of this aquarium is to be a species aquarium, to try and figure out how to keep that sand sifting goby, the twin spot goby, successfully. So, just like that, we're here. Hey guys, I'm very, very excited because I'm down at Cairns Marine with Gavin, who's about to come in the screen. He's a little bit nervous, don't worry about that. Come on, Gav. Gavin Darrington, owner of Cairns Marine, which, by the way, thank you very much for opening up this store, because I don't have a local fish store in Coffs Harbour and you are the closest to me, and he's done it just so I can come down and shop personally for the best of fish and the corals on the mid-north coast. Isn't that right, Gav?
Yeah, well, that's right. It's been a bit of a process for us to get here, and we've been really, really surprised with what sort of local reefing community there is. I had no idea, and it was all a bit of a risk, obviously, but and the best thing about it is the people are really nice as well.
Gav's actually got a long history. I don't know a lot about it, but I got some of it working at some public aquariums, as well as also in breeding clownfish and some coral propagation. But we're going to go through that on a completely different day, because what's so important now, and the reason why it's dark behind me, is that Gav's actually spent the day working here, but then the evening unpacking a shipment from Cairns Marine. And in that shipment, Gavin, is exactly what that I'm so excited about.
A beautiful little pair of Twinspot Gobies.
You keep talking, I'm going to go and get them. Keep talking.
As you may or may not know, Twinspot Gobies are a very sensitive fish that has special dietary requirements that aren't quite often met in a standard aquarium. So it takes a long time to obviously set your aquarium up, similar to a mandarin fish, but even more finicky. So yeah, you really need to take the time to set your aquarium up to get it ready to house these guys.
And the thing that irks me the most about keeping sand sifting gobies in reef aquariums is that I feel like we're kind of, in a way, abusing the fish. We're disrespecting the fish for what it is. So we're the common classic would be a Valencia goby, like a blue line goby, or
sleeper gobies.
Yeah, sleeper gobies, and we want those. Well, I don't, but a lot of people want those in their reef aquariums to keep that sandbed sparkling white. But the trouble is they run out of food, don't they?
They do. Look, it takes a bit of time, similar to the twin spots, to develop a decent sandbed, nice and thick and cultured, that it's full of all sorts of benthic organisms that are going to become food for the gobies as well. So it's a lot of times we'll set up a tank and the sandbed ends up being fairly sterile and just ineffective. But to get a nice deep sandbed takes a bit of time and a bit of effort to prepare to make sure you can keep these guys alive.
So it almost feels like, in a way, we're treating those fish for the role of keeping that sandbed nice and white, but then the fact that they starve out means we're treating them as an expendable creature in our tank.
Yeah, you could say that, unfortunately, but look, they are a beautiful fish, and a lot of people do have success with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need to definitely prepare your tank for them. It's not something you can throw in there and just expect for them to live. There are a lot of other inverts and such that do very well at keeping your sandbed nice and clean as well, and have a much better success rate at living over time.
The first thing that hit me is how tiny they are, though I think these guys are only probably half grown. You've had a little bit of experience in the past, maybe in a public aquarium?
A little bit of husbandry with the twin spots, but not a lot. But they are, you've got sleeper gobies, and then the twin spots are next level, seriously.
So what is it about twin spots that makes them so much more difficult to keep than what would be the average sleeper goby?
It's the less likelihood of them taking to any sort of prepared foods, and not so much, whereas your sleeper gobies rely on a bit of algae in your sandbed as well. These guys are really after your copepods and invertebrates to eat out of the sandbed, so you've really got to have a good population of them to be successful.
So whereas a lot of people are hoping that their sleeper gobies will come up eventually and take their mice or shrimp that's floating down from the water column and landing, these guys,
no,
just not going to happen. What day were these collected? Do you know what day they were collected?
It was earlier on in the week, probably Monday or Tuesday, I think, at this stage.
And that's part of the reason why I was so keen to get down here tonight, was because, as you know, most fish, well, almost all fish, when they're transported are starved. And even if they are held in a wholesaler or a collector's facility beforehand and they are fed, then these guys just aren't going to be receptive of any foods that those collectors are going to give them. So effectively, these guys haven't eaten since
And the thing is, they're such a small body size that they can't afford to lose that weight. So really important to get them back into your seeded tank. And that'll keep them full, I'm sure.
Yeah, which, by the way, I will say one thing. You know what I find is the most interesting thing, and I've sent Gav plenty of pictures and footage of my copepods running around and the worms and things growing. Leaves.
Yeah, I remember you saying. That's amazing,
And even now, I put a fresh batch of these sea grape leaves in, and it's like a mecca for the worms to come up through the sand, and the little tiny copepods just go onto them. It's almost like they want to consume that lignin. It's
the biofilm. So as it breaks down, the copepods consume the biofilm. As it breaks down.
So and you know, underneath it you get the little pistol shrimps and laying their eggs in there and doing
an ecosystem.
Who would have thought that putting botanicals in a marine aquarium might be the answer to something like that? Maybe. It's fertilising, isn't it? That's it. Stay tuned. Well, I'm back home now after my trip to Port Macquarie and Cairns Marine. Thanks very much, Gav. And I've got my very, very tiny very, very tiny Twinspot Gobies to actually acclimate to their new home. So I'm not going to mess around because it's been a bit of a day-long journey for these guys. And I must admit, I'm not used to dealing with fish that are quite this small. I don't know if you actually, they're so small that you can't even actually really see them in the bag. So anyway, I'll get them acclimated. I'm not going to quarantine these fish. There's no way in the world these guys are going to be able to eat in a quarantine tank. They need to go into their microfauna diverse mangrove mud filled copepod heaven, which is my sand sifting goby aquarium. See you guys in the morning. Now, although I haven't been feeding my sand sifting gobies any fish food pellets, I have been feeding their sandbed Frenzy Fish Feed Pellets every day or two. And that's to encourage the microfauna, the worms and the copepods to actually populate and to reproduce and to provide a food source for my Twinspot Gobies. If you want to pick up some Frenzy Fish Feed Pellets, jump on their website, frenzyfishfeeds.com.au, and don't forget to use the discount code AussieAquarist at checkout and you'll get 10% off your order.